On average, we spend about one third of our lives asleep, and without question, it is time well spent. While our bodies shut down, our brains stay busy processing and preparing for the day ahead. But are you getting enough restorative, quality sleep? Dr. Rebecca Spencer is a professor of psychological and brain sciences at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. She's a leading researcher exploring the relationship between sleep and brain function. And we're so happy you could take some time for us today, Dr. Spencer. Given all the stressors of 2020, are we more sleep deprived than ever?
Yeah, so certainly some people are suffering from the stress, and stress can keep us awake at night. And we certainly, people have been studying this question already, and you certainly see people that have had their sleep compromised. But I'll say the other side of the coin is changes to our daily schedules that have allowed some people to actually sleep better. So kids that maybe don't have to be to school quite as early, people that don't have to plan time for a commute into their day. And so you could actually see a bimodal group with some people actually getting better sleep just because they'll be able to take advantage of that extra time that they have. So they might still be experiencing stress, but they're also allowing themselves a bit more time to get the sleep that they need.
Well, from the pandemic to the election to seeking diversions from both, people are glued to their TVs, their phones, their feeds. How detrimental is all of this screen time to our sleep?
Yeah, screen time is one of the worst things we can do to our sleep. And you just brought up one reason why it's particularly bad right now is those screens are delivering stressful information. And so it's not just that we're getting information from our screens, but we're getting stressful information from our screens. And on average, that doesn't just happen, with the election or, the pandemic. We typically have those things if we check our email at the end of the day, and maybe we saw something that we didn't want to know about, and then we get that information right before we're trying to go to sleep. So those screens are not bad just for the content, but they're also then delivering the wrong kind of light to us. So screens, in order to see them, they are bringing that information via bright lights. And a lot of that light is white, but it's also blue, and these blue wavelengths are really harmful for our sleep. All wavelengths are bad, but blue is the worst. And so that's why if you can, you can certainly dim the light, and you can certainly dim the blue light in particular, and that will help. But light is it's always going to be bad for your sleep. And so for the most part, you want to be in dim light within about an hour before bedtime to allow you to tap into your own natural melatonin. So, some people take advantage of melatonin from the grocery stores before they're taking advantage of their own melatonin that they already have innately in them.
Well, how much sleep do we actually need, and why is getting enough restorative sleep so important to our overall well-being?
Yeah, so I think this is such a great question because we take it for granted. So you may have heard that you need 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but in reality, that recommendation is not really based on how much you need. And in fact, everybody's need is very different. So some people might need as little as less than 7 hours at night. And there's probably some people certainly that need more than 9 hours at night. And so your each person's individual need is very, very different. And you have to learn what your own individual sleep need is. So you could do that by, looking to your family. Do they tend to be long sleepers or short sleepers? You can also do that by giving yourself a luxurious 2-week vacation and see how much you need to sleep at the end of it. So after you've had a chance to wash out that habitual sleep deprivation that you have, now how much are you sleeping? And I used to always give that advice, and people would laugh, like, when am I going to get this 2-week break? But the pandemic has actually given some people a chance to just free sleep and see how much you need. And so some people maybe have gotten more insight into what their natural sleep rhythms might be by having this pandemic. So if we're going to find any upside, like learning about your own sleep rhythm might be one of them.
Well, people are also reporting stranger, more vivid dreams, and they're also recalling them in much greater detail. Is this dream surge real, and is it due to changing sleep patterns or to life-changing experiences?
Oh, it's another great question. And there's a lot of pieces probably going into that. So, one thing is certainly that the stress that we're experiencing might be entering into our dreams. And so, the stress that we have during the day is maybe disrupting our sleep or entering our sleep and giving us more to process while we're sleeping. And in that way, it could be giving us these really strange dreams. Also, if your sleep is fragmented, you're more likely to remember dreams. And so, if our sleep is fragmented because we're stressed, we're more likely to remember dreams that we might have been having all along, but we just weren't capturing. We also think about how the differences in what is in our day is going to cause differences in what is in our night. Our dreams are made up of waking experiences. So they might get combined in different ways, but they feed into what we're processing while we sleep. And so if our days are these, very different daytime experiences, then our nights are going to likewise be different daytime experiences.
Well, uninterrupted sleep definitely seems more elusive when we're stressed. Quantity doesn't always mean quality, though. What are the implications of fragmented sleep? And can we catch up during the day with naps?
Absolutely. So fragmented sleep does require you to get more sleep overall. So 8 hours, but broken up into a lot of chunks, is not the same as 8 hours continuous of sleep. And so in that way, if your sleep is fragmented, you're going to need more sleep. So that's one part of the answer to your question. Is fragmented sleep is really going to cause us to need more sleep overall, and sometimes we don't have the time for that. So can you make up for it with naps? Absolutely. Naps do serve the same benefits as overnight sleep does, so that's a good thing. We can take advantage of naps to help fulfill what we've lost at night. The one downside to naps is, though, if they're not used appropriately, is they can actually hurt your overnight sleep. So if I nap too much during the day, it's going to be hard for me to fall asleep at night. And so you really have to be aware of this balance between when I'm sleeping in the middle of the day, how long am I sleeping in the middle of the day, and will I still be able to fall asleep when I want to at night? I might need to go to bed just a little bit later. I need to be able to adjust my sleep expectations based on having had that daytime sleep.
Well, your research explores how the brain operates during sleep. What about that window when we're winding down and just falling asleep? Many people say their biggest ideas, their biggest revelations come during this transitionary period.
Yeah, so we certainly do have evidence that that early sleep is important, and you can actually process information right as you're transitioning into sleep. Most of that is really visual information. So people that do computer coding or things that are very visual have a great experience during that time. They sometimes get the insight into what they were working on. But other types of insight might come around that time as well. And it's possible that we're just letting our inhibitions down enough that we're able to free think a little bit more right as we're transitioning into sleep. And so if we can think of ways of capturing those opportunistic moments, we really can gain even more from our sleep in that way.
Having a recorder rather than a pen and paper might be more expeditious for sure. Falling back an hour in the fall gives us an extra hour of sleep, which we could all use right about now. How do the effects of falling back compare to the effects of, say, springing forward?
Oh, it's really interesting. So this has become a very natural sleep experiment that everybody is going through. It's like I'm taking everybody and saying, what happens to you if I give you an extra hour of sleep? And that's our experience in the fall. And we do see some evidence of reduced car accidents, for instance. But overall, just as we try to readjust our schedules, it doesn't give us this huge boost of performance benefit. And worse yet is what happens in the spring. In the spring, we lose an hour of sleep. And if I say scientifically, as a sleep expert, what happens if I take an hour away from you? We see great ramifications of this. So we see that there's increased car accidents. We see increased risk of actually cardiac events, so increased heart attacks. So there's a lot of ill effects of losing just 1 hour of sleep as we do every spring. And they're not made up for by great benefits in the fall. So overall, the sleep field would say this whole daylight savings thing is not ideal. It's an unhealthy thing that we do to our bodies twice a year.
Well, as someone who understands the mysteries of sleep and an ultra marathoner, I might add, how essential are stress outlets like exercise to a good night's sleep? And what can we all be doing to sleep a little better?
Yeah, so I think of it as a trifecta. It's your exercise, it's your sleep, and your nutrition. All three of those things are working together to promote good physical health as well as mental health. So if we don't do these things in a stable 24-hour pattern, it can actually hurt our mental health, and it can even lead to obesity. So thinking of the interaction of these three and prioritizing them, giving sleep the time of day, is really critical to good physical and mental health.
Dr. Spencer, we so appreciate your time today. Thank you for sharing your expertise and helping us all rest just a little easier.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.